How do you feel about just with this game, man, and this rivalry went on the road as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was one that you have highlighted on your schedule every single year, and last year it was definitely a sour taste in our mouth how it ended, and you know, we practiced every single day in the off season, and thought of this game and wanted to get the egg back. So it definitely means a lot to us.
Jaxson, you said that you had a game 8 last year after losing when you walked into the locker room after the game. What was the sigh of relief like tonight when the clock hit 0 at the end of the fourth quarter?
Yeah, obviously meant a lot. I think a big part was, just seeing the guys rally together and pull through, through the adversity that we faced throughout the game. I made an oath to myself that I was never going to lose that game again, or this game again. So, I thought we did a great job preparing for it as a team, and when it mattered, we were able to push forward and pull through in the end.
Jaxson, you took that hard hit in the third quarter on the targeting by Deshaun Page. How are you feeling after that?
It was great.
It was obviously close in the first half there. What were you guys talking about just to stay in it and do your thing?
Yeah, you got to give credit to them. Quite honestly, we came out and expect them to do different things than what they were doing. So throughout the game, we were just trying to make adjustments, and they're a really good team. They've always been known for defense, and we knew this game was going to be a hard fought battle, regardless of record or anything like that. So credit to them, and we just had to keep making adjustments throughout the game.
Jaxson, Lane has said that when you get a bunch of new players together, you don't know how it's going to gel. You were one of the transfers last year. You saw new guys come in this year. When did you know that this team was gelling differently?
Yeah, well, I thought that this team had a better chance than the previous year just because of the leadership that we had. Regardless of guys coming back, there was a standard that was put in place by a lot of guys, and there was a culture that was trying to be built. And I thought Coach Kiffin and the whole staff did a great job of. He preaches all the time of this being a player-led team, and we really honed in on that because we saw our inefficiencies last year when things got tough, and try to just build that culture throughout the year. And I thought the guys that we brought in, credit to the coaching staff and credit to the players for the guys that we brought in of being able to buy in immediately, and definitely thought that showed throughout the season.
Kind of going off that, Lane said this program isn't meant for everybody. Some transfers haven't made it all the way through, like yourself. Why is this program meant for you?
I think there's a lot of reasons. I love the toughness that it has. Starting with our strength staff. I love the commitment from our position coaches and our coordinators. I really don't know another staff in the country that works as hard as they do throughout the day, throughout the week. Late nights every single night, and then just grinding, and that's something that I like to preach to myself is through everything you got to work hard, and hard work beats talent. And there's definitely some games that we go into where teams have a little bit more talent than us, but we came into every single game knowing that we worked harder, and I think that that's something that I really fell in love with this program.
Jaxson, I know you've kept it close to the best for the most part, but I think it's fair to say you played through some pain this year. Why has that been important to you, and I guess what enables you to do that?
I just love the game. I told J-Walk, because he was asking me, he's like, "Bro, are you good?" And I was like, "Dog, that there's nothing that can happen to me that's going to keep me off the field." And going through a whole season in the SEC, you're due to get a little bumps and bruises and whatnot. So, luckily we have great doctors who can help take care of us, and a really good training staff that helps us get our rehab throughout the week so we can be able to play.
Did you have head injury concerns tonight, or was it something else?
Oh, no, it was just a little stinger.
With the win today, you guys set yourself up with the opportunity to be one of the best, if not the best, Ole Miss team that has ever seen this program has ever seen. How are you looking to kind of capitalize on that opportunity? What would that mean to you to quarterback maybe the best team in program history?
Yeah, it would mean a lot. I came here, wanted to make history and kind of change things and do something that's never been done. So that's been our approach from myself and from everybody that's been here before me and the whole coaching staff. And I feel like that we've been able to get better each year. And, we have a lot of goals and aspirations, and, we definitely want to achieve that and do something that's never been done. So it would mean a lot.
On the touchdown to Caden, what were your thoughts whenever you saw him and nobody was anywhere near him? Was that a play y'all been working on in practice? Or what are you thinking? I hope I don't overthrow him, underthrow him.
Well, quite honestly, he was so open that I couldn't resonate in my mind like there's got to be somebody around me. So I kind of hesitated for a second because I was like, man, like he looks really open. Hopefully there's not somebody back there that I didn't see. But yeah, definitely worked on it a lot in practice, and we were well prepared for the situation.
Caden's a guy that's been through so much this year, and I'm sure being part of this team has probably helped him a ton too. But to see him kind of have that moment where it gave you guys a 2-score lead, I mean, what did that mean to you to see your teammate who's been through so much kind of have such a big moment on such a big stage?
Yeah, I love it. He's been a staple to our offense, a staple to our team with his leadership, and somebody that comes to work every single day and sets a great example for the guys around him. And with guys like him, you want nothing but success for him. And I was super stoked for him to get that touchdown and take a big lead when there was low scoring throughout the game. So super proud of him and what he's done.
You talked about the adjustments made on the offensive side of the ball throughout the game. Kind of just talk about, they did a good job stopping the run in the first half, but, things really started getting going late in that second quarter and in that third quarter. Just kind of talk about what it means to have guys like Quinshon and like Bentley just to help you out. And then you, too, making plays with your legs. Just kind of talk about, the running game and how that helps you as a quarterback.
Yeah, like I said earlier, we came into this game knowing it was going to be a hard-fought game, and it was going to be won on the offensive line and as well as the defensive line, so just the trenches. So, we knew that for us to win, we're going to have to win the physical battle up front on both sides of the ball. When you have two workhorses like Quinshon and Dew, where you have a lot of confidence that you're going to get a positive gain every single time you get on the ball. And I think a big shout out goes to our offensive line of just being able to wear them down throughout the game, and them being able to make adjustments on the sideline. And we knew that we were going to get them tired eventually. And when it comes to that point, we have all the confidence in the world to our offensive line. They're going to create a big push. And like I said, we got two workhorses in the backfield that are going to make explosive plays.
Blaine just asked this, and ask you this about the success this team's had in the conversation for kind of one of those New Year's Six bowls. Do you feel this is a team worthy of one of those slots?
Yeah, absolutely. I personally think that our two losses came from the best two teams in the whole country. So on the road, in very hostile environments, it's something that we can't really control, but you look at the rankings, and I feel confident that our team can go in and compete with anybody in the country. So like I said, it's out of our control, but I think we're in a good spot for it.
Jaxson, where does the team go from here now as you prepare for a bowl game, and obviously you want to continue to even get better before that?
Yeah, first of all, we got to get healthy, get the guys back, and we're definitely going to enjoy this one because it means a lot to our program and it means a lot to Oxford and whatnot. So we're definitely going to enjoy this. But at the same time, these bowl games are a huge momentum builder for the season to come, and our team's going to be well prepared for it. And regardless of the bowl game that we're going to play in, we're super excited for it, and we want to, like I said, we want to make history. So really looking forward to that.
Jaxson, Lane had talked a lot this week about not overdoing the emotion of this game. You mentioned not getting the look that you were necessarily expecting from that defense to start. Could an emotional team have adjusted the way that you guys did tonight, in your opinion?
No, I don't. We've been down in a lot of games this year. We've had a lot of games where it's been really tight, and one thing that has stayed true with our team is that we've never flinched through any of that. And that was just one of those games tonight. They did a lot of things that we weren't expecting them to do, and we had to just make constant adjustments throughout the game, and really just stay true and be bought in and play for the guy next to you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jack.
Appreciate you.